I have no jokes. Yeah, then they're clean.
Just so you know, my vacation starts the minute this meeting is done.
That's it?
I have no obligations from now till Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
Well, you sure ask a lot of questions.
So what I'm trying to say,
Drag it out as long as we can.
I want a 14-minute meeting.
Nice.
Uh,
Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the April 19th Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 5:29 p.m. It was a little louder this time. Anyways, our first order of business is the adoption of the agenda. I am looking for a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Councillor Reid,
I'll also move the agenda as presented for adoption.
all in favor? Carried unanimously. Now, the adoption of the minutes, I am looking for a motion to accept the minutes of the March 21st, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting. And the minutes were attached to the agenda. Councillor Flowers,
I move the adoption of the March 21st minutes.
all in favor? Carried unanimously. So our first order coming up is a delegation, and this is from the Bighill Creek Preservation Society. I'd like to call Mr. Jerry Betts, President of the Bighill Creek Preservation Society, to the podium to begin his presentation. Welcome, Mr. Betts.
Thank you. I'm honored to be the delegation. Thank you very much for taking your time, for allowing me this time this afternoon to update you on Bighill Creek Preservation Society. My objectives are threefold. I'd like to do a quick review of some of the information I provided to you in 2019, just so that everybody has a little bit of background. I'd like to give you an update on our battles regarding the gravel developments that are affecting or would affect Bighill Springs Provincial Park and all of the lands downstream of the park. And I'd like to also discuss the need to protect more of the Bighill Creek drainage from future industrial and residential development. So the first slide I have up here is a heron that lives in a rookery, a heron colony that's adjacent to the municipal reserves on Bighill Creek. And let me just, before I go too much further, let me just say that all of the information that I provide here, all of our studies are available on bighillcreek.ca. So if anybody would like any additional information, that's a good place to get it, and we can certainly provide more for you if you'd require it. The Bighill Creek drainage, as you're aware, extends about 174 square kilometers from Cochrane all the way up to the Beaver Dam Creek highlands up in the north. You'll note on this map that Cochrane Lakes are not part of the topographical drainage. That's important, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. This drainage was created by a rapid erosion event after the last glaciation. A dam burst as the glaciers retreated, and the valley was excavated over the course of about 2 to 3 weeks. Water course cut down through the gravel that was laying on top of the bedrock, which is a Paskapoo formation, and created a very unique environment that is demonstrated in the Bighill Creek Valley. I won't go into this too much because I'd like to move on to some of the more current issues that need to be addressed. Our mission and our objectives, our overarching mission is to ensure that the natural and historic attributes of the Bighill Creek watershed are preserved for this generation and for future generations. And this is a long list of the objectives that we have undertaken in order to reach that goal. This is a list of some of the undertakings that we've made in support of our watershed report. The watershed statement is designed to create a baseline of information so that we understand what the value and the state of the watershed is in today, so that we can measure that going forward and determine whether it is improving or losing its value. These are a list of some of the things that we've done to create that baseline. You'll note that the town of Cochrane has supported one of our activities. This is a map of Sunterra, you can see on the left, which has been built out now. I believe there are about 10,000 people living up there now, and I think they're into their last phase of development. You'll also note on this map in this green and purple area, these are the municipal reserves down on the creek that we are the stewards of. Now, going back to the spring and what I mentioned earlier in regard to Cochrane Lake, this map depicts the aquifer that provides all of the water that goes into Bighill Springs Provincial Park. And that main spring that serves the park also presents about 50% of the water that comes into Bighill Creek. It's an amazing place that many people, well, almost nobody's been able to go in and see the main spring itself, because it's been held off limits by parks, with good reason, because it's a very sensitive area. You'll see down in this area, this is the recharge area. The spring itself issues from the ground in an area probably half the size of this room, and the creek instantaneously presents itself and then starts flowing down through the park. You'll note, as I said earlier, that the geographic extent, or the extent of this watershed, extends beyond the topographical drainage of the Bighill Creek drainage. It's important because it was created during the last ice age. When the scouring event occurred, the Paskapoo sandstone that forms the bedrock of this area was excavated down, and the water that flows through this aquifer emerges at the end of that bedrock and discharges into the spring and the creek. As I said earlier, this is currently at risk of gravel developments in these areas. These yellow blocks are quarter sections that are all owned by gravel operators. So this gives you a listing of all the gravel operators that have acquired lands around Bighill Springs Provincial Park and around that main spring that I just referred to. Number one, of course, is Burnco. You can see Mountain Ash, Lafarge, McNair, and Hillstone. Hillstone, as you're probably aware, is in operation and has been for a number of years. Number two is the Mountain Ash application that's currently being reviewed by AEP, and I'll get to that in a minute. The other two ownership blocks, again quarter sections, are held by these companies for future development. What happens when these mines are created is that the topsoil, the shrubbery, and up to 4 meters of till, which is the clay and overburden that overlays the gravel, are removed. Then the gravel operators will extract up to 25 meters of gravel. They'll leave 1 meter of gravel to provide filtration for the water that flows from the surface down into the creek. And in our view, that 1 meter is grossly insufficient to provide the protection that the creek or that the spring and the creek require. What happens when you remove that overlay, you also increase chemical leaching, which occurs when the atmosphere reaches the gravels and they are disturbed, and water flows through those disturbed gravels. They run the risk, this excavation and this additional flow of water through that fine layer of gravels can generate increased turbidity in the water. We can see clouding in the spring and in the creek. And it also, when we generate all 1,300, potentially 1,300 acres of basin that's created by these gravel mines, we expect to see dramatically changed recharge. In other words, the volume of water that flows into the spring and into the creek will be highly variable over the course of the year and over the course of time, and that's not beneficial to the flow through the ecosystem downstream. Oops, sorry, I'm going here. So this is a picture that was taken on Highway 567 heading west. This was taken 2 weeks ago. What you see in that cloud is a cloud of dust that originated in the Hillstone gravel mine. And although our focus in Bighill Creek Preservation Society has been on protecting the groundwater and the viability of the ecology downstream of the spring and the park, this type of activity also generates this kind of cloud and, of course, noise and disturbance to the local environment. So this is a slide that was in my slide deck in 2019. It's chart number 5.3 out of the 2011 Rocky View County Open Spaces Master Plan. It was a great plan, but unfortunately, like many great plans, it was never brought to fruition. None of the trails, none of the areas that were identified on this plan that are environmentally sensitive as needing protection, none of those have been protected. We see it as still a good blueprint for future development, but we're going to continue to press Rocky View County to activate the plan. We anticipate over the course of time, people will realize the benefits of connecting Glenbow Park, Bighill, and the Jumping Pound Creeks into one area that can recognize the benefits of open spaces for all the inhabitants of Cochrane, of course, and for the region. The Nature Conservancy owns lands up in the northern part of the basin up north of 567. We'd like to see additional lands preserved on the lower section of the creek. This slide shows the original road allowance that delivered people and vehicles to the park from the 1920s until the 1970s. If you've been around for a very long time, or you've had an opportunity to walk up the coulee in the last few years, you can still see the remnants of the road allowance. It follows along the creek very nicely. It would require one bridge crossing and probably some corduroy road. But other than that, it's highly passable all the way to Bighill Springs Provincial Park. So, in summary, the issues that we face today are the potential hazards or potential harm that's created by these mines that are proposed for the area around Bighill Springs Provincial Park. We see that as being a significant issue. We have made our application to Alberta Environment and Parks through our statement of concern, and I know that the town has also submitted a statement. There were, in fact, 270 statements submitted. Unfortunately, by the Alberta Environment and Parks definition of directly affected, they will probably only allow about 4 or 5 of those submissions to be recognized. We're hopeful that because of the work that we've done in developing our State of the Watershed program, that we will be recognized among those 4 or 5. And we're hoping that they will recognize the harm that those mines would create, that this mine specifically, and the precedent that would be set, the harm that would be created by these mines to spring, the existing park, and the rest of the drainage. We're hoping that they'll deny the application, and of course, that's what we've asked for. In the event that they do not do so, then we will be forced to go to appeal. And unfortunately, at this juncture, there's no other opportunity for any other input from citizens or other organizations to try to oppose this process. So that's the biggest thing. And as I said earlier, this opportunity to connect the Bighill Springs Coulee along with the Glenbow and the other trail systems that are being proposed seems like a tremendous opportunity for both the town and the region. And our focus is the long-term protection of this valley, and we see the opportunity for people to be provided access and reasonable use to these open spaces. That's important to our current well-being and our future generations' well-being. So that's the extent of my comments and my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Thanks, Mr. Betts, for the information. I'm going to look towards my council colleagues for questions. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Jerry, thanks for the presentation. It was great to get an update and to know where things at in terms of the current situation. When do you expect to hear a decision?
From Alberta Environment and Parks, they've told us that they will take another 2 weeks in order to determine who among those 270 applicants or submission applicants are designated as directly affected. And as I said, that'll come down to 3 or 4. What happens then is that they supply those submissions to Mountain Ash Limited Partnership. They are obligated to contact the authors of those submissions and apparently have some kind of a communication with them, and then report that communication back to AEP. AEP, in a parallel process, has their own experts who are to judge the scientific evidence that we've submitted and others have submitted, as well as other comments regarding the harm that they individually think may be done to their livelihoods and their properties and the environment. And those experts will also provide their opinion to AEP. And then there's a director will make a recommendation, and a decision will be rendered. Apparently, once the decision is rendered, which we expect may take until sometime maybe early next year for all this process to unfold, then it will be subject to appeal by either of the parties. So if it goes against Mountain Ash, I would expect that they would appeal it, and certainly if it's approved, we will undertake to appeal it, as I expect others will. So we'll see how that process goes. That is a long and arduous and expensive process as well. And unfortunately, for organizations such as ourselves with limited funds and limited access to expertise, that's another stage gate. So we'll see how that unfolds, but we're hoping initially that the application is denied.
A supplemental question. Of the 4 property or 5 property owners, are some of those already mining the gravel?
Well, Hillstone is the mine that's currently in operation. Mountain Ash would, if it was approved, would be moving ahead within the next couple of years. The Burnco lands, those 3/4 sections that immediately surround the main spring, Burnco has done some preliminary drilling on them to evaluate the resource there, and so it's hard to know, I think, how quickly some of those lands may be developed, because obviously organizations like Burnco have substantial land holdings, and they, I expect, are acquiring lands to extend their resource over a number of years. So I don't know how fast they would pursue those lands. But our concern is that if Mountain Ash is approved, then it will set a precedent for the others.
Right, that's of course, that was my last question. If you were successful with Mountain Ash, would that set a precedent for the others? And so the answer is yes.
That is our concern.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And what has been recommended, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too much time on this, what was recommended by the scientists that we engaged on this topic was that there be a 1.6 kilometer, 1 mile setback from the park boundary that would preclude any mining. And then for a further half a mile, basically, they would be required to leave 4 meters of gravel in the deposit to further provide filtration for the aquifer. And then beyond that, they could go back to their normal mining practices. That recommendation was made by Dr. John Fennell, who authored a study that is on our website. It goes into all the detail on this. And that recommendation was also supported by Alberta Parks, the people who actually manage the park. And for the record, Alberta Parks has taken this position that the park needs a buffer in numerous communications they've had with Rocky View County and with Alberta Environment and Parks. So that's where they stand on it. We'll see how it boils through the governmental process.
Councillor McFadden?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Betts, for your presentation. As always, it's both very informative and fascinating at the same time, and I certainly appreciate all the work you and your group have put in over the years to gather all of this information and be such great champions of the Bighill Creek and the Preservation Society. And I certainly share like a number of the visions you've proposed, somehow bringing together and preserving the Jumping Pound, the Bighill, and the Glenbow Ranch into some sort of preservation. I think those are all landscapes that we all value here in Cochrane. My question though is, could you just highlight what are the potential biodiversity risks that we might lose in a worst case scenario if the gravel development happens the way it's predicted that it might? What kind of losses could we see downstream of the development?
Well, when these mines are developed, I mentioned the chemical leaching that occurs and the compounds that are released. And please recognize that 50 years ago, I was an economist. I've never been a scientist. So I'm speaking only from the information I've picked up through osmosis and the talented people with whom I've had an opportunity to work over the last few years. So according to Dr. John Fennell and others that we've talked to, this chemical leaching process releases compounds like arsenic and selenium and other compounds that you might see from a typical coal mine. Bighill Creek has historically been a robust spawning area for native trout and other species, and those chemicals are would be detrimental to that spawning process. And then, of course, as you work your way down through the ecological chain, the blue heron that we saw on that first slide, they are dependent upon those fish in that creek and other creeks and other bodies of water in the area. As if those bodies are contaminated, they lose their fish stocks. The other species that depend on those fish stocks start to decline. And of course, the fishery and the biodiversity in the Bow River is subject to that death of 1,000 cuts. This is a small creek and it's a relatively small area, but none of these areas can be written off as surplus at this stage. We need all the water we can get in this part of the country, and we need all the high quality water that we can get. When I mentioned the variability in flows, if you had a basin that was 2 square miles in circumference and 75 feet deep, and you had a 2013 rain event, then all of a sudden you could have, and a huge flush of water into the system, and again, exacerbating all the problems that I've discussed earlier. Those are some of the things, and I'd be happy to bring Vivian Ferris to speak to you again and give you a much more comprehensive answer to the question, but I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great overview. That's all the questions I have for right now, so thank you.
Mayor Janung?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and I echo a lot of what Councillor McFadden has said. I really appreciate the update, et cetera. You did reference you presented to us in 2019. I think we followed up with a letter to Rocky County and Alberta Environment and Parks. Have you made this same presentation to Rocky County Council since the municipal election?
No, I have not. That is on my list, and in fact, I've made a contact. I attempted to get Crystal Kissel to lead me through the new process that they have, but I haven't. She's been unavailable recently, so I'll follow up, and I will make this submission to Rocky View County, and of course, you know, one of the significant issues that I touched on was that Rocky View County has an open spaces master plan, or they've had several of them, but irrespective of that, they only have less than 1% of the county protected in any fashion. And these open spaces are very important for the ecology, obviously, but also for human enjoyment and development. And so our press with Rocky View County will be those kind of discussions. We need open spaces master plan, and we need to activate those, and we need funding for those, and those go hand in hand. So.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason I ask is obvious, and you stated it, but I think we are limited in what we can do to help. Obviously, the Bighill Creek is like a treasured natural resource that obviously runs through our community, and we've done work in our community vision to highlight, as you've stated, the river riparian areas, the Jumping Pound Creek, and it is one of our pillars of our vision that we protect these natural open spaces. So we're aligned on that. I just, other than putting pressure on other orders of government, we're somewhat limited as a municipality. But then, have you considered reaching out to Minister Nixon, the Minister of Environment? And if you haven't, I would encourage that, and maybe we can help in that area where we help lobby the minister, maybe take him by the hand, and I mean that almost literally, and take him through the Bighill Creek area and show him. He's, I believe, from the Sundre area is where his constituency is, and I believe his parents live in Cochrane. There's some connections that you might be able to draw on some heartstrings from a decision maker in the province that would ultimately have this on their desk.
First of all, I appreciate the letters that the town has provided in support of these and other similar activities, or the submissions of statements of concern and your letters to the county. We have attempted to engage Jason Nixon and his department in this conversation to ask them to look at the broader picture. This application by Mountain Ash is just the immediate issue that needs to be dealt with. We have not, quite candidly, received much in terms of favorable response, but I certainly recognize that we are not, we may not be engaged at the right levels, and I take your suggestion well. I think that maybe there are opportunities to have a little more personal approach on this and on a localized basis, maybe, and we should undertake to do that. So,
yeah, great.
I'll give that some thought.
Last question, if I may, Madam Chair. And I think I know the answer, but you talked about gravel and the impacts on the Bighill Creek area and the aquifer. Is it no to gravel, or is there a gravel operation that your society sees as maybe better, or, you know, and you referenced the 1 meter of gravel being left at the, you know, as a filtration, would 10 meters being left be better, or is it 0?
Well, we believe in science. And when the scientists have recommended to us that there be a moratorium, the one I described to you earlier, we take them at their word. The amount of gravel resource in this area is tremendous. It's effectively the Athabasca tar sands of gravel. And so the Hillstone plant, that picture that I showed you, notwithstanding that plume of dust and the impact that has on that environment, that mine is outside the buffer zone that's been recommended by science. And we have no issue. We recognize that people need gravel. You know, the province, the population is expanding, and every person who comes into the province creates another requirement for gravel. That goes without saying. It's a question of locating those mines where they provide the highest economic benefit at the least environmental cost. And you know, as going back 50 years as an economist, I can understand those concepts that you have to create net value, recognizing all the costs and benefits.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. I just had one last one for you here. I was thinking, as we were talking about that when we did our Cochrane Visioning document, which was a plan for the future from the last council, it was definitely the Bighill Creek, the health of it was something that was a priority to the same group sitting around the table. It still is, I know that. As I listened to this presentation, it's very concerning to me as somebody downstream from what's going on or proposed to go on. I had the same questions the mayor did, in a way, which is that what can we do to help? And I had a couple thoughts that maybe weren't mentioned there. Is there anything you can think of that we can do to help, other than its advocacy, I assume? I'm also thinking about it on an individual level, just as a councillor, would be raising awareness, local citizen awareness, writing to the minister. Do you think that would be useful, helpful to the organization?
To be honest with you, I would go back to the mayor's suggestion and undertake that maybe as an organization. I recognize that intergovernmental structures may inhibit good communication sometimes. So maybe our organization needs, or our like-minded citizens, maybe we can engage the minister a little more directly. So I appreciate, and we'll certainly give some thought as to what else that the town can do for us. Certainly, we appreciate the support that you provided thus far, and we certainly support the regional planning process that is being sponsored here to recognize the fact that over the next 50 or 100 years, Calgary, Cochrane, and Bighill Creek, things are going to change, and there'll be many more people here. These open spaces are going to be placed at risk. There needs to be long-term planning and funding brought to protect them. As I said earlier, we believe that having people on the land, people who can appreciate the value of open spaces, they're the ones who will stand up and protect it. And so to have spaces available for them to go out and enjoy it, undertake that experience, and be the advocates for open spaces, long after I'm gone, which isn't that far down the pike. We need the next generation to be aware of these things so that they can carry on the challenge, because it'll be an ongoing challenge.
Thank you. It leads me to my last and only unique thought on this, and that was, you'd mentioned that providing people access to these spaces was an advisement or part of the presentation. Could you elaborate on what that means for the town of Cochrane? Well,
I think the town of Cochrane has a big investment in these open spaces. You've done, I think, a very good job in terms of addressing this within your confines, but I think the recognition of the accessibility of open spaces beyond the town and encouraging these lands to be set aside by some kind of conservancy and with facilities and access that'll allow the population, the regional population, the town population, the regional population to experience them without jeopardizing the ecology. Those are the things that need to be done. So I think that those are if Cochrane can continue to have that vision and expand it beyond your borders and promote that within the region, and certainly Rocky View County seems to be changing a little bit now. We'll see how the tenor goes over the next few years. Maybe we'll make some headway in some of these areas. But again, I'll say we certainly appreciate the support we've received from the town.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here, and you definitely have my thanks and support for everything you're doing, and please keep in touch with us that how we can help as things advance. Once you've talked to Rocky View County, once we find out what happens with when the court decisions are made, would love to be kept abreast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Betts, I don't have any questions for you, but I would encourage you to reach out to administration if you want some help facilitating contact interprovincially. They would be your best bet to reach out to in that regard.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Next up is the Great Trail Project, and so I'd like to invite Mr. Alex Baum from Rotary Cochrane up to the podium. Good evening, Mr. Baum.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear us. I need you to work a little of your magic right there. There we go. Perfect. Thank you very much. A little disclaimer this evening. I thought it was just good time management to hook a dentist appointment in before the council meeting tonight. And I knew it was starting to go off the rails when the dentist said to me, we're just going to start with a little minor freezing. So I'll do my best to have my lips keep up with the slides tonight. So thank you. Thank you for hearing us. And as we continue with this project, the engagement of certainly mayor and council is utmost, along with the other municipalities that we're working with. This evening with me is Mr. Bob McLeod. Bob is a Rotarian, also is the chair of Bow River's Edge Campground. He's with us. And then we have Dan Crawford. Dan said yes to sitting on our steering committee. I don't know that he said yes to all the work he's got to do, but it's helping us raise money, working with our media relations, and many other things. And so we're happy to have him here this evening and certainly on our steering committee. And then out on a day pass today is Mr. Julian DeCock. They said it'd be good therapy for him to come back into council chambers. No, he's also, all kidding aside, an important part of our steering committee, brings a vast level of knowledge to the things that we don't understand as volunteers. He kind of straightens us out and gets us back on the right direction. So I'll ask them to join me when we get into the question period just in a bit. So difficult to read the first slide there. So let me read it because I think it's important because it talks about our desire to be part of the Trans-Canada Trail with this project. The Trans-Canada Trail is a nation-building project created by thousands of people like you and I who share the dream of connecting our country. The trail links 15,000 communities along with 24,000 kilometers. Its vanishing point leads across our country through the wild, the rural, and the urban by waterways, roadways, and footpaths. Regardless of how we choose to experience it, the result is connection with the outdoors, one another, and our communities. 86% or more of the trail is completed now. As you can see on this map, The trail through Alberta is only at 68%, maybe a little more now, which begs to be finished. Deborah Apps, who is the past president and CEO of Trans-Canada Trail, was quoted saying, "As we look to the future, we still have much to accomplish. Our goal is to continue our work to make the trail more accessible and to develop more greenway sections. We also look forward to the continued collaboration with Indigenous peoples, whose culture and traditions are deeply ingrained in our land and in our history." So, next slide, as we start with the why. Why would we want to do something so crazy? I think when we begin to answer that why, we understand why we want to do something like this. The immediate answer is simply active trails. They are legacy projects with immediate benefits now and for the generations to come. Some of the indirect benefits, as you can see there, it promotes economic opportunities, not only for our municipalities, but our neighbors to the west. Tremendous opportunities there. Social and environmental benefits, maximizing active engagement for children all the way through to elders and seniors. And with the emergence of e-bikes now, it is amazing how long and how wide that portal is. Movement of peoples powered by human activity, which includes walking, cycling, and the use of human-powered mobility aids, such as wheelchairs, scooters, e-bikes, rollerblades, snowshoes, and today, cross-country skis. You haven't seen your cars out there yet. Provides a complete network that allows users to safely move through their communities and between destinations from Main Street to schools, parks, public transit hubs, residential neighborhoods, and linking communities. The trail will connect 4 parks. This trail that we're talking about this evening will connect 4 parks and 7 communities. One short decade ago, we met in this actual Hall of Vision, over there. And we invited a whole bunch of guests, including Mayor Nenshid and a few others, if you recall. And we talked about the possibilities of a trail from Calgary all the way to Canmore. And there started some of the vision. And then September 15th of 2012, we had an event in the Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park that included a number of us and Calgary Rotary Clubs and others, and we helped raise some money to start developing and help them develop the trails within the park, but also the vision of more in our regional and municipalities. And as we know, a vision's only a dream without action. So we wanted the vision to move to action. And from that, a little bit of a historical brief there for you. Following that 2012 event in the Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park, it took 3 years of discussions, meetings, and relationship building to start putting this together. In 2015, in a special member guest meeting at our Rotary Club here in Cochrane, it was unanimously agreed to officially launch this immense project. The Rotary Trail, or the trail as we know it today, Calgary to Canmore. To help us celebrate that launch, in attendance were the CEO at the time of the Trans-Canada Trail, Deborah Apps, along with Laureen Harper, who still is on that national board, and others that you can see in that list. In 2016, another big event for us was the Stoney Nation's Chiefs and Council resolution was signed with us with interest of having the Trans-Canada Trail come along Highway 1A through the Stoney Nakoda Nations connecting to Canmore. That document still stands today. 5 more years of meetings, relationship building, and the laborious and important task of forming our Trail Steering Committee. This was vitally important to ensure that we had all of the jurisdictions represented on this, and I'll touch on that a little bit in a future slide. And then November 2021, which most of you enjoyed with us, was the official launch event with a collective goal to have stage 1 of the trail in Calgary to Cochrane completed by the 2025 Rotary International Conference that'll be held in Calgary. So our timeline is now starting to shrink, but we're making good progress. Part of the vision and part of the, I have to say, some of the influence of that September 2012 launch in the park was the next slide you see here, the Rotary Mattamy Trail. This project started after that. I'm not saying that that event was the generator, but it certainly helped motivate the Rotary Clubs of Calgary. And they took on this project. It was large. It was 148 kilometers long, $50 million, and they did it, which was amazing and an inspiration to us. And from that Rotary Mattamy Trail, the chair of that committee is a lady named Myrna Dubé-Thompson, and she joined us also on the steering committee, bringing that wealth of knowledge to our committee. Stage 1, Calgary to Cochrane, we've titled it Connecting the Parks. And there's 4 of them, like we previously mentioned. The first one on the west end of the city is the David Richardson Memorial Disc Golf Park. If you haven't had a chance to go see it or play it, you want to do that. It is a really, really nice park, and we'll call it Park 1. There's a few more links to this. If you don't know this gentleman, his name is Glenn Richardson and the Richardson family. The reason I have his slide up there is their family was the first of our major donors to this project of $100,000, and they made it right here downtown at a restaurant as they wrote the check out to us. It was a kind of a wonderful lunch. I had to buy lunch that day. Park number 2 is the Haskayne Legacy Park. If you haven't had the privilege of meeting Dick Haskayne, it's something you want to add to your bucket list. Incredible individual, and as you know, he donated those lands to the city of Calgary, and his park is sitting as an island as we speak. It's not connected, and it's a bit of a shame, but another inspiration to us to help join his park to David Richardson's park, and then ultimately to the Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park. I've got to know Dick a little bit over a period of time, and he was out here, I was going to say last week, but it's 2 weeks ago now, and he joined us for lunch, and then we left lunch and walked over to McKay's Ice Cream and walked in there and got our dessert, and then Dick said, you know, the last time I was in here with my good friend Neil Harvey, and what a connection that is that those two go back a long ways. And we said, you know, at the November event, these are our living pioneers, and they're still with us. Not Neil. You know, Neil has passed, and we miss him. That to say is Dick and his wife Lois are certainly in support of this trail and are looking forward to the connection that so many can enjoy the park that he intended a number of years ago. Park number 3 is the Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park. What a wonderful gift the Harveys gave us all, and we enjoy it. And we believe with the trail connection to the parks and to our community, it'll even be enhanced or enjoyed more by many more. Park number 3. Park number 4, I just have on my page here in ink, to be announced. I wish we could make an announcement tonight, but we can't yet. But we do want to have a park on this end of the trail to call it Park Number 4, Connections of the Park, on the Cochrane side. So you see it, the Calgary to Cochrane stage 1, which we're working on as we speak, is the connection of the parks with the trail. David Richardson, Haskayne, the Glenbow, and then here in Cochrane. In 1999, the Cochrane Lions Club, along with the Rotary Club of Cochrane, had a vision that one day the riverfront lands would include a campground, a family park and rec area, and a parking lot. And we do have, not such sophisticated maps, but a map that shows what we were thinking back in 1999. And we say that vision is still alive today. Our desire would be to add to our current park, Bow River's Edge Campground, another number of sites so that we can host more people here in Cochrane along the beautiful Bow River. And then just to the west of that, as we move to the old bridge, have a family park and rec area. And that would be for all Albertans, all of our community and visitors. And then on the other side, right on the old bridge road there that you see, put a parking lot that we would call a trailhead to the park, to the trail. Is you need a flat area for people to come, unhook their bikes, and then move out to the trail. It could also duplicate for many things, farmers markets, the list can go on, but a parking lot on the far west side of that property. There are 26 acres there, and that was a gravel pit. Other than the 12 acres that Bow River's Edge Campground owns, the other 26 acres are still currently owned by Rocky View County. We are not the only ones interested in those 26 acres, and we're doing our darndest to try and get them to sell us those lands. And we get it. The demand for those lands, as you can see, is there a prettier picture than that, and what people vision could go on those lands. So we'll continue to work with them. They've hosted us well, and we continue conversations and meetings with them, and we hope that the outcome, if successful, would be to expand the campground again, add a park, family picnic area there, and a trailhead or parking lot. The other thing I'll point out on that slide is you can see where the current trail is along the river. That trail would continue, and our hope is that it would become part of the Trans-Canada Trail. It would need a little bit of enhancements, but how nice would that be to be part of the Trans-Canada Trail? Of course, at 6 o'clock on your slide, we all know what that center is, the Spray Lake Sawmills Family Recreation Center. If you haven't been there, you want to go. It's pretty neat. And then as we move to the top, we talked about the 26 acres. And then as we move down the right side, or the 3 o'clock side, to the north, it doesn't show it so well, but the sewer trunk line actually serves as a really nice buffer between the campground and those activities that will be going on that are very public from the Greystone developments. We would hope that if that all comes together, if that vision comes together, that we could link the trail system from Greystone into the Trans-Canada Trail as the other communities that surround this. So there you have it, stage 1. The goal is to have it completed by 2025, and we're delighted to be working on it as we speak. Stage 2, we call this stage Connecting Communities. What you see up there is a plan that we worked on with the Trans-Canada Trail about 10 years ago, and at that time, the green trail to the south, you can see it there, was the original Trans-Canada Trail. That's where they intended it to go. And there are segments of the trail already completed. It goes down through Bragg Creek, out through the Sibbald Flats area, and then joins Canmore. And then, of course, then there was another option that went on the south side of the Bow River. And then the preferred site that you see there would go along the 1A down the right-of-way in through the Stony Nakota lands, and then out through Bighorn, Exshaw, and join up with Canmore that way. We are now in the stage of forming what we call the Owners' Council. And the Owners' Council is senior administration representation from each of these 7 municipalities. And I'm happy to say tonight that the City of Calgary is in. They said that that Kyle Ripley, the director for the City of Calgary Parks, he is actually going to sit on this Owners' Council himself, which we were delighted. He was at our inaugural event here in November. So we're going to be working with each municipality to do our best to get a senior administrative person on this Owners' Council so that we can ensure that this group of volunteers don't build a trail that doesn't work. We want to build a trail that works, and then long-term, as the trail's in place, is how do we sustain it, how do we maintain it, and all of those things. And we need that level of expertise at that Owners' Council to make sure that the end result is a good one. Connecting the communities, we've talked about. We did get inspiration from the Rotary Mattamy Trail in Calgary. We certainly have got inspiration from the Legacy Trail in Banff, Canmore. There are well over 1 million walkers and runners on that trail now. And you know, it being part of the Trans-Canada Trail fits nicely. You can see the Stony Nakota Nation through Morley there, the vistas along the Bow River, and then along, you know, the dam. Just incredible. And as you work through Exshaw there, it's just outstanding. And I would say world-class outstanding, not just our area outstanding. This is world-class. Some major wins to date. First thing is the key stakeholders, the steering and subcommittees. I mentioned a few already that are on this steering committee, but we do have one of the senior leaders from the Trans-Canada Trail that joins us on our steering committee. We have TrailNet from Alberta, TrailNet on the committee. We have Parks Alberta on the committee. Of course, Glenbow Ranch. We have some representation from Canmore there. We also have good representation from the Stony Nakota Nation. So a really strong win to date. And then, as you know, the intersection, we're watching it every day. It moves, there's more gravel being moved, there's more happening there. We're all getting excited about it. Actually moving down the hill quite well now. It's even going to be better. But the Highway 1A and Highway 22 intersection is a big part to this town, as we know. But even early enough, it was thought to put a pedestrian passway through there. And so it's engineered into that. So we, you know, how could we even begin to afford that alone? I mean, we're trying to build one bridge, and the price tag for that one bridge is astounding. But this would have been even more, I'm sure. So built into that is a big win. And then also, you know, those that worked on the Jack Tennant Memorial Bridge, I mean, that's gone on for, can I say, decades? It's gone on a long time, but now we have something that we're all proud of, and it incorporates a trail. And what we really like is that vista point where you can stop, get out of harm's way from the fast runners, and then have a look down the valley. We want to do the same types of things on the bridge that goes over the Bow into the Glenbow, so that people can stop and enjoy the vistas. And then, you know, obviously we've talked about the chief and council resolution that we have. That was a big one. And it was exciting to have the chiefs here in Cochrane, you know, to agree on that back in 2016. And then, as you all know, the rumor is beyond rumor now. It's actually in the news, so we get to say it, is that there may be a Calgary Airport to Banff rail link that would just work hand in glove with this trail project. Can you imagine getting on at the airport and getting off at Cochrane with your bike and then biking all the way to Canmore or even Banff? Outstanding. So we see that as a big value added. This is our website to the trail. This was created by some of our local expertise. And Dan, with his working ability, was able to get Great West to help us name the trail. We were hoping to get 300 submissions of naming the trail, and it went from 300 to 500 to 1,200 plus fairly quickly, which was outstanding. And they came from all over Alberta and even into BC and Saskatchewan. We got naming suggestions for the trail. We said for stage one, if it was a non-Indigenous name, it would only be for stage one, because stage two would be an Indigenous name. Well, it turns out that the top two suggestions, that the naming panel, as you can see here, there's our naming panel that went to work for us, and you can see the timelines that they had. By March 30th, they presented to us two names. We're not at liberty to say that now because we're in the due diligence process. The top two are both Indigenous, both Stoney, and we are now hoping that we can engage, maybe even CDI can help us with that effort. Owners Council and you know, the blessing of the name. How neat would that be if we could have our neighbors on Treaty 7 lands help us announce the name for this trail, Canmore to Calgary. So that's on the go right now, and we are doing all the kind of due diligence things you would do with a name, but we're also engaging our neighbors to ensure that they're part of this as we move forward. In summary, we've enjoyed a good relationship since we started with municipalities that we in the past have maybe not had the best relationship because they're busy doing their things. And you know, if you remember, Councillor Sonia was here November 19th to enjoy the kickoff with us, and this was her tweet shortly after her day with us. Work on the Trans-Canada Trail between Calgary and Cochrane is underway right now. Ward 1 residents have an exciting opportunity to help pick the name for this gorgeous stretch of land bordering our community. Can't wait to see the suggestions. We have support for this and from the other municipalities, which is awesome. So we look forward to the days ahead, and some days we may get the cart ahead of the horses. And we need our councillors and our mayors to adjust us, and that's why we need on this Owners Council senior administrators so that they can steer us and help us go in the right direction. We'll do our best to raise the money. We got Dan on our team, and he's already out there working hard. He's got a few neat initiatives going. The major donor excitement has just inspired me. I'm not at liberty to share those with you tonight, but I can tell you, other than the Richardsons, we might be oversubscribed in major donors. We've got to raise 20% of the $25 million we believe this trail is going to cost. And I think we're there already. But we will not say no to any donations, because we can make maybe a little nicer bridge rather than the rope bridge that we were planning on. And I say that in jest. We did retain Urban Systems. They're another set of professionals that we believe we needed to do this job well. They've got expertise, as we all know. You know, they were very engaged in the Kelowna Trail project, which is similar to our project, except I think we have a more beautiful river to follow than what they have, even though their lake is nice. So we've retained them. They're engaged with us and pushing us hard. When I say pushing us hard, the next meeting is always planned before the last one ends, and it's good. So I'll now move to questions, but I ask my colleagues to join me.
Mr. Baum, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry that I didn't make your November presentation. I had a sick little boy at home then, so I did hear from all my colleagues how great it was. And I just wanted to commend you guys for not only connecting a rec opportunity, but overall tourism and communities, right? And that's really what this entire project is all about. And it wouldn't be done without fantastic volunteers and people stepping up to the plate to get this work done. So thank you for that. I will look to my colleagues for any questions. Councillor Reid?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what the deputy mayor has said. I mean, this is an exciting project. You guys know that. I mean, I don't know if it's a love of work or a love of labor, but whatever it is, it's working right. And, to your Q&A image, I don't think you have to roll the dice on this one. I think that it's going to happen. It's probably going to happen in all of our lifetimes. And it's just really exciting. And I'd like to know what more we can do to be of support other than, reaching out, being part of the social media. I mean, is there more that the town can do to be that unnamed number 4 park? Is there something that we should be doing there to see that through? Alex?
I think that the quick answer is yes. As we form partnerships and work with municipalities, especially the town of Cochrane, this is the host, I say the host town. It all starts here. And so we need your expertise and support, support of your administrative team who have been to date just outstanding, and we thank you for that. And have them engaged with us along the way, so that we have that voice at the table. That is certainly helpful. And then as the funds start coming in, we got our first federal grant application off, and the application was I think good, and I don't know how they can go by it and not extend to us, some grant funds as they roll in. We'll look to the town of Cochrane to help us manage that well, so that it's spent well and very transparent. We've got an agreement with the Calgary Foundation. They've agreed to receipt those for us, which is really good. And as you know, the Calgary Foundation and the Cochrane Foundation, stable organizations.
Mayor Janot?
Yeah, thank you. Echo everything that's been said. Awesome initiative. It's something I think it would be silly not to support. And one of our vision statements is community connectivity. It's right in the words of what you're trying to do. So pretty easy to align. I think I agree with Councillor Reid that this is a simple one, and from our perspective. Can maybe give you a bit of an update on the SETI grant that you referenced with the naming. Councillor Flowers and I had just the opportunity, by coincidence today, was our monthly SETI meeting. And I proposed to the group, would they be interested in being a part of the naming of the trail, and outlined what you have shared with us tonight. And I think Councillor Flowers, correct me if I'm wrong, but each and every councillor sitting around the table representing each of the nations were, I think the words they used were, they were honored to be involved in such an important, impactful initiative that they see great value in. So stay tuned. I'll connect you with they would like to go through their administrations to do that, but they were deeply honored by being asked. So I think it's a great move to, obviously for so many reasons, but I think it's an honorable thing for your society or your group to do also. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
One question I do have is your timeline was pretty aggressive. 2025, that's the International Rotary Convention in the city of Calgary at that time.
Yes.
And that, I mean, I can see the photo ops of ribbon cuttings all along with people from all over the world. That's awesome. We have a piece of policy that's being contemplated. We've asked our administration for a report back on restrictions of future area structure plans. I've heard rumblings in the community that this is an impact to the trail project. Could you speak to that? Is it an impact? What are you feeling from those discussions?
Well, just backtrack just a little bit. Some of my other motivation is Mr. Haskane. He said to me, Alex, he says, don't let me die before this trail gets done. And so I said, we're going to do it for you. So he's well into his 80s, but I said, you do your part and we'll do our best to do our part. Yeah, obviously a big part of the trail will go through, some of the easterly lands there. That currently aren't developed, and we need to move along through there to join up join up to a bridge, and then bridge across to the north side, which would be the Glenbow Ranch side. So we, obviously, area structure plans include trails. We want to keep the momentum going, we know there's going to be speed bumps along the way. We're not that naive to believe that there won't be. So I guess our committee will do everything we can to help facilitate that and answer any questions that we may have to help you in that regard as you make decisions on municipal development plans and ASPs and the kinds of things that good councils do. So we're supportive there, and ask that you would continue to consider the trail as part of what we want to do. And our goal is to get it done by 2025 before we all have to go get e-bikes.
Just further to that, I mean, so there is an area structure plan required on the lands that we saw the trail connection point to the bridge through Cochrane.
Yeah, part of where the trail isn't right now, there is a current ASP in place, and we're going to use part of that. You've got to just kind of vision that, and then past that, we've got to move into some lands that are currently not part of an area structure plan.
Okay. Yeah, other than that, there's so many positives here that they're not even going to try and start to list them, but really hats off to your committees, all the volunteers, as Deputy Mayor has outlined. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing.
Councillor McFadden?
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen, and to everybody involved with your group. It's this is a passion project for so many people, and I really appreciate the Rotarians stepping up to continue to advance that dream to the next step, and particularly admire a deadline of 2025 and continuing to push that forward. So I'm really excited about the update. Trails and connectivity and has always been important to me, so I'm super excited to see this, of course. And one of the things that your presentation brought home again is how Cochrane is like the heart of this in so many ways. It's the Cochrane Rotarians that are pushing this right now. So many of the trail launch is going to be central from Cochrane. So anyway, it's an exciting project. I'm glad headway's being made, and of course you can always count on my support for this. And I think that's the trick, is so many people want to work together to make this happen, and I think we're going to be able to do that. So I'm looking forward to all of the updates. Probably my only question tonight would be what your timeline might be for the announcement of the trail name.
Well, with the announcement here of CEDI, and I'm not going to get the pronunciation right, that would be a big one. Is we would love to have a celebration with our Stoney Nakoda neighbors, and if we have to, delay it just a touch to include them in this important piece, we would most likely do that, even though we'd like to name it now, because right now we're calling it The Trail. And our webmaster's ready to change that quickly, but we want to make sure we only get one chance to do it right, so we want to do it right. So I would hope sooner than later, but we'll make sure that we do it right.
And I completely agree with the principle. Like, let's do it right, and I think it's great that Jeff and Susan are able to kind of integrate some more options into that and involve everybody. So that's really great to see. Actually, one other question. I know the stage 2 is not really your focus right now, but is the preferred connection for stage 2 along the 1A right away all the way through, or is the preferred one kind of a mix of through the Stony Nakota lands and then back over to the highway. I had a map and I just lost track
Yeah,
of which was the preferred.
there's a number of discussions underway, and we can't, we can't get too far ahead of the cart in this matter. There's still a protocol that we have to honor, and the protocol is that, you know, the Stony Nakotas have been working with our province for quite a while on the right-of-way. And they've accomplished some of that, and now we're waiting for the federal government to also engage in that and approve that transaction. We're working hard and leaning hard on our Member of Parliament. I don't ever not see him where I say, how's that coming? And I know he's, you know, gone down and talked to some of his colleagues about, you know, moving this up further in their priority list. But much like the Legacy project, you know, where they moved it out, you know, to protect wildlife corridors and have it visible, so you've got an element of safety and accessibility. You know, if you have a bicycle accident, how do you get to somebody on the trail? And the Legacy Trail shows us how they can do it. Now, just a side note is Alberta Transportation, the government of Alberta, did not allow trails on right-of-ways before Legacy. And so we're just doing our best to piggyback on what they did. And so in the right-of-way expansion, we believe that there'll be enough room to accommodate a trail. Now, that's an opinion at this stage, but we believe that there's enough room to put a trail much like the Legacy Trail through those lands.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's probably 2 summers ago now. I took my kids and a friend and we did it Banff to Canmore because it's downhill, which is the appropriate way to do those long trails. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it, and if it gets opened again, I'll go the downhill route to Calgary. But anyhow, thank you again, gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank the presenters here in the group for the November Hall of Vision event was really one of the highlights of my 2 terms on council, and really a pleasure, and thank you for the invite to that. We got to meet so many, you know, pioneer families of the Bow Valley and the true philanthropic stalwarts of the whole region. It was a real pleasure to meet the people there, and then just to see this grand plan. What an amazing thing, and thank you for what you're doing. As I listened to it tonight, there's a few things that were new to me, including Park number 4 in Cochrane, and I have so many questions about that, but I have a feeling I'd get the answer all in due course, because the answers aren't probably here yet. But is there anything more you can tell us about additional information and when it might come for that vision? It was that's the Cochrane-centric part, I felt like, and exciting stuff.
We're encouraged by the engagement of the, you know, Rocky View County. They've heard us. They know about us. You know, we made a presentation to our immediate councillors. You know, one is currently the Reeve, or the mayor, and the other's the deputy mayor, who, you know, understand this project well. And so I know they know of the project and now know of our desire for those lands. You know, what the outcome may be. It is a valued piece of property. There's no question, and I'm sure that the county could do very well by selling it, you know, to the highest bidder or the most interested. Well, I think we take the most interested party platform. So we hope, you know, and we might need a little divine intervention here. You know, if you go home tonight and you're gonna kneel beside your bed, that might be something you pray for, because it would be. I mean, you know, our campground chair, he would tell you that they've been working on the expansion of our campground. They've got funding. I shouldn't talk for you, Bob, but they've got funding in place. They've got a plan in place. They've got a performa in place, and already that park has donated back over $3 million to the communities, and that's not just Cochrane. That's communities, and we believe, Bob, it's going to do much better if we get to expand it, correct? We believe so. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
you already know that our documents are quite public. We do make submissions every year, so you have a very good idea of what our net proceeds are. Right now, the Rotary Club and the Lions Club receive 30,000 years for their club coffers and projects. Right now, we limit our contribution to the communities, both Cochrane and the area, to 60,000, and that money is distributed through a reinvestment subcommittee within the board of the Bow River Campground Society. We make a lot more than that, and we're retaining that in our accounts in anticipation of buying the land and developing the land. And of course, once after we are successful in buying the land and developing it, that fund would be much larger. And of course, we'd have to have a much bigger vision of how to control and distribute that fund, much in the way the Cochrane Foundation and other foundations work. So we're looking forward to that opportunity, but we have to get there first. So Alex talked about divine intervention and saying your prayers the right way. We have to get by that roadblock that we have right now, or that hurdle. So are there any further questions on that?
Yeah, no, that's great, thank you. Just in a large sense, to look back at my time on council, once it's all said and done, to be any small part of this grand plan would be a true privilege, and thank you for the update, and can't wait to hear more on this.
Part I need to emphasize is that if we're successful with the land, we look forward to working with the town and developing that and integrating that campground into a trail system or other aspects of the offering to the public.
Right, very exciting. Thank you very much.
Councilor Flowers?
I have no questions, but I have just a few comments. Congratulations on all the hard work that you guys have done, and thank you on behalf of all of us and future generations. I know what the benefits are going to be, Mr. Crawford. They're going to be huge. I was in this room when you guys asked for money for the campground many, many years ago, and it sure turned to be successful. Julian was here as well. Since then, I know there's been a lot of speed bumps, but it never stopped you guys from doing anything. So it's good to hear that you think the money's there and it's all going to come together, and thank you for that.
First of all, it would be a shame for me to get this far and not say something. So I walked in the room tonight. I said to Mike, "It's the first time I've had to shave at 4 o'clock in 5 years." So my only comment was because I know that timing is critical, and the time frame is very, very tight. But out of the gate with Urban, who we all know very well, I think we will produce, the governance framework along with the scoping and the development plan for the park and the implementation plan, which will include river studies and so forth within the year, maybe just bumping into that year from now, and then you'll be into sort of the detailed design. So it's doable if pieces of this all start to fall into place. I think that's what I signed up for anyway. Yeah, I thought so. Thank you.
I just have a couple questions for you. Where are you guys at with fundraising so far to date?
Yeah, from behind me, ongoing was the answer. Really good. We've as you know, we've got the $1,000 check that we've got to move through. It's almost stale dated now. They gave it to us in January. We've got to move it through. We've got another $100,000 commitment as soon as we're ready. And those two donations were unrestricted, which was really nice. As you start the planning stages, it's hard to get people excited about donating, but both those did. And then we have another contribution of $200,000, and if I mentioned their names, you'd know them well. And then we've got a major donor, and again, you'd know him well. He's standing by, waiting for us to say when and how much. And then we have a donor agreement with a family outside of Cochrane for $1 million already. It's signed. His lawyer called me and said his client is very interested in the project. Really no relationship to Cochrane, but said he wanted to be part of it. And that $1 million will help us get matching grants for the bridge. And then you were here and heard Lois, bless her heart. She's committed for $3 million to help hook up her hubby's bridge or her park to the trail and into accessibility. And I know I'm missing some. So if we do that math, it adds up. Our goal was $5 million. We're past that now. And you know, where can we go with this? Because we want everybody to be involved that wants to be involved financially. We're certainly going to ask for spade help when we get doing the trail. And then you can buy a brick, you can sponsor a tree, you can sponsor a bench, or even a kilometer of the trail. So there'll be lots of opportunities for all Albertans as we move forward. So to answer your question, it's ahead of what we even optimistically forecasted.
Well, I know you have one of the best fundraisers on your team, probably
And if you
no one
just
no
a
one
minute,
to this area.
he'll probably solicit you. Have you got it?
I'll donate, Dan.
That was a nice segue, thank you. As you probably are aware of, we talk about fundraising is an integral part of an initiative like this one. I'm pleased to announce with some of our media folks here in town that we have some projects that we'll be unveiling shortly. They won't be $1 million projects, but they serve another role, which I think is critical to an initiative in fundraising, and that's raising awareness. There's a piece that wasn't mentioned tonight, and I think it's an appropriate place to mention it. There's legacy opportunities with this trail, and we called this project right from the beginning a people's project, because it has influence by all levels of our community, everyone. And our trail will have opportunities for low budget contributions right up to the $1 million contributions. It's going to be available to all. But this piece of legacy I'm talking about is something that will be something that you and I will probably never see, but our children, their children, and for years and years from now, people will talk about the people who influenced the completion of this trail. You in this room are a part of that legacy. You can play a role in determining whether this trail continues on. Yes, we're all aware of a motion that was set forward, and I think that with due diligence and the proper time, we will move forward with this, and we look forward to that. But the legacy piece is really an important piece to everyone, not only to our donors, our sponsors, and our partners, but to you and I, the common citizen. And it allows me to segue into something else. I think I'd like to take a moment to express gratitude. Gratitude on behalf of the community. I think I speak for everyone when I say that this council, this mayor, have done something that's been a conversation for many, many years. And I'd heard it several times. Infrastructure, road development was such a key piece to Cochrane. Well, what you have done here in developing the 1A, already the results are so positive. We hear people, I see the movement of traffic. I think that you guys have really created a legacy for yourself and what you've done. And I think I speak on behalf of the community when I say we are grateful for that initiative, the courage to step forward. I think it was money well spent. And I believe the majority, yes, there's always negativity in a world, no matter what city, town you go to, there are always going to be people oppose things. But I firmly believe, and I'm sure you agree, the majority of this community is grateful for what you have done with regard to 1A. And now with the province stepping in, I see the continuation. It has an association to the trail. We're building corridors, we're communicating. And the other piece that's critical too, that I think tourism, not only in Cochrane, but tourism Alberta, tourism in the world will talk about this trail, because no matter where you go in the country, talk to communities that have been joined that have created corridors between them, and they will tell you that their economies have thrived because of trails, because of corridors and connections. So what you're doing here, I think, will have a long-term implication, not only on the economy, but I think we really are truly setting the stage for a great legacy for everyone involved in this. So thank you.
I'll double my donation now, Dan. Councillor Reid?
Yeah, just one follow-up question. Dan, you made me think of it. So when the Legacy Trail was first introduced, I remember our family bought, I don't know what the donation was, but it was some kind of minimal amount. And our kids were really excited about it. And if you go down to I think it's northwest of Chinatown on the south side of the river in Calgary, there's a cairn there. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but there are people who donated money for that part of the trail have their name and kind of, I don't know if it's a brick or something, but my kids have been there and still talk about it. Now my grandkids are going to see that. And so, yeah, if there's a way that families can contribute to this, whether Alex is a bench or a tree or something, then it does become a people's trail, right?
We do have a brick that's going to be engraved, and that's $200. And we're just not sure whether it's going to be a retaining wall somewhere. If you've been to Washington D.C. and you get to the, I mean, it's touching. And so could that be, yeah, even out here, right? So something like that, or maybe even part of the brickway, depending on the engraving. But yeah, at $200, we want all Albertans to be part of that.
If I could just mention one last thing. If we're impressed by numbers, I did a little research and I found out that actually the Legacy Trail between Canmore and Banff had over 150,000 riders last year, and a total of almost 1.4 million since conception. Now, if you take into consideration the connection to Calgary, I've talked to biking groups, cycling groups that have as many to 300 to 400 members who have shared with me and said that they avoid coming to Cochrane because, one, the traffic on the 1A is an obstacle, and for many of their riders who come down that hill don't look forward to going back up again. So with the completion of this trail, all the biking groups that I've talked to, and even the one locally here, I spoke with Mr. Robert Martins, who he and I are putting a bike-a-thon together. He has a membership of over 250 and said they will be using that trail very frequently. So I would suggest to you the long-term implications of this trail are really quite great. Just in closing, thank you.
Now, Mr. Baum, can families purchase a brick already, or is that something that's still, forthcoming as you get further through the project?
It's yet to come. That's one of the levels of contribution. Again, going back to what we talked about, being a people's project, we've, right from the get-go, our committee talked about this should be an open opportunity to all levels of our community to be a part of, because we didn't want it to look like it's an elitist development. It brings forth everyone's opportunity. And I can assure you, with some of the events that we are planning here over the summer months, it's going to welcome people of all levels in our community to support this. But raising awareness really is a critical piece in visualization in bringing this project forward.
But we will sell a brick tonight.
Perfect. I just wanted to say thank you again for all the information. Thank you for bringing this forward. And I would just say that if there's anything, and I think it was already raised by one of my colleagues, that anything that we can do on our behalf to make this go forward, to continue momentum, please let us know, because obviously you've heard from all of us that this is super important, not only to yourselves, but our community and council as well. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And I did forget to mention that Councillor Nagel is off for the next couple of meetings, so I wanted to put that out there. And why don't we take a 5-minute break? Okay, we'll go 10-minute break, a 10-minute break, and we will come back at 7:12 on the nose.
Seriously, woman.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, look, oh, no, it just shifted. We were a minute early, but we're 7:12. I would like to invite, for our business portion of tonight, I'd like to invite Mr. Corman up to the podium to give us an update on the station and programming that's going to be happening there. Mr. Corman.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Council. Good evening. I'm going to run you through a brief presentation and then jump into questions. And as you have seen and just toured recently, the information or the Innovation Center, the station, is floor plan is up on your screen here. As you can see, Railway Street is to the bottom of the screen. We have 3 defined sections of the station. One is the information center, Cochrane Information Center, that will be on your right of the screen. The administration area and town office and bill paying center, as well as the boardrooms. And then the Innovation Center on the left side, with the boardrooms being a part of the Innovation Center as well, or the innovation space, as I should say. They will be utilized by both parties. And then some universal washrooms in the back and some loading areas and such. But the 3 main areas are sort of separated, a third as far as even space goes. So when we look at the innovation or the information center, this is a space in which we can provide visitors, transit riders, and all citizens to gather and converse, either in the information center on a daily basis or in the evening when events could happen. It could be rented out for networking events or after hours events that the citizens would like to have in the space. We provide programming now in the information center, and we will do so in this space, and we will enhance it to have more opportunity with the Civic Plaza outside to create products for visitors and tourists, or visitors and citizens to experience on a daily and weekly basis. We will provide certainly the best customer service to encourage people to stay longer and spend more money in our town as a tourist. Promote Cochrane as an outstanding place to live, visit, and create business. We do that now with our new resident program, and we obviously will be the place where regional and local transit meet, and we will be the information hub for that as well. And this is just a little drawing, a little concept drawing. This will not be the final, obviously, but this is something that that was proposed. You can see the wood. This is the art wall. This is where the desks was, and access to the administration area and the doors leading out to the bus and transit area. So just a concept. It could look a little different than that. I can't make any promises because I'm not the designer. And then we move into the administration space and the customer service area. Obviously, the customer service area where people can pay their bills. We have a little phone and video room that we can connect citizens with and Cochranites with people up at the ranch house to talk to potentially assessment or the tax people or building permits. If they've come down looking for that information down here, we can provide them with the link up to the ranch house. And in the back area, we have enough space for administration to sit. Economic development will be here, as well as some community partners, and I'll run through that in a minute. We also have a hoteling station where other administration can come down and use the area. The concept drawings, this is the sort of the area that I just mentioned, the kitchenette area. This is sort of the concept drawing of what it's going to look like here. And this is the reception area with one of the boardrooms showing in the background. This reception area will actually be plexiglassed all the way around now. So this is an outdated picture, but you get the idea and the feel of what we're trying to achieve in that area. So we know that these bill payments for the moment will be able to be processed down at the station. Other payments like building permits, development permits, we're still working with those departments to determine how to do that. As some of the programs that we need may not be available to the customer service representative. So we're still working on that opportunity. So we have opportunity for Cochrane Tourism, Innovate Cochrane, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on, the Chamber and Community Futures to have a representative sit in the administration area, because we want to have a space to collaborate with all the business associations, provide central access for businesses to gain information and access to municipal personnel. And then obviously to secure that location for financial transactions and a space for all town employees to work if they'd like, and for the public to enjoy. Even after hours, those boardrooms will be available for people to use for their nightly meetings, associations that have board meetings and such, they'll be available as well for that purpose. So this is where the innovation space takes a little bit of a, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey, because it has been a journey. We started with the strategic plan in 2020 that council approved by resolution, and we said that one of our strategic priorities was going to promote the innovation sector. And then we actually said we were going to create a tech incubator and related professional and services. Now we'll have to take you back. This is the larger vision of the larger building. And this is pre-COVID, because this plan was approved in February of 2020. So, you know, through this, we also said that the municipality would create a variety of entrepreneurship programs and operate through the Innovation Center, which we're trying to do, but we said that we were going to create these plans, the municipality. So we searched out and we spoke with many, many people over the last couple of years. Alberta Innovates, Innovate Canmore. They said, yep, lots of programming out there. Don't recreate the wheel. There's lots of people that can do it. What do you need? Well, we didn't really know. What does your community need? We didn't really know. So we reached out to the communities. We talked about library programming, which we're still in conversation with. We talked to Bow Valley College about education programs. We even talked to the Founder Institute, and they are a group that actually can create a whole program for you and run it on your behalf. But ultimately, we also started to talk with some people. Alberta IoT, pardon me, they run an IoT fast track program, which could be delivered in the space as well. But what does the community need? We sort of said, everybody kept saying, well, why is the municipality trying to create programming? What purpose does it serve? Do you know that they want it? What do they need? And I didn't know. So I went back to the economic development vision and I said, well, trying to support and cultivate an innovation-based economic ecosystem. Well, how do I do that without knowing what the community wants? And so I also read this book. This book is called The Startup Way. It's how to create an entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's a brilliant book. It's a really easy read. If you'd like to, I can give it to you. I have a couple copies. But what it said was, entrepreneurs must lead, not governments, not universities, not economic developers, funders, foundations, or service providers. And it talked about the Boulder thesis, which is how to create a societal or innovative social community. And this really resonated with me, and this is obviously based on Boulder, Colorado. And I looked at it and said, well, we need to engage the community. So this is where governments do play. In the book, it says, we play very well because we can provide physical space. And we also can be entrepreneurial, promoting entrepreneurial spirit, and we can find funding and have opportunities in that manner. So I said, okay, we need to gather the community together. We need to find a way to understand the community needs. And this is where Innovate Cochrane comes into play. It's community innovation. So I started talking with Mark Eden, who's here tonight, Nathan Clausen, Kevin Shire, Samantha Nickerson, all helped the community build their our Smart Cities initiative when we had the challenge. And I said, we need to find a way to bring together the community, to talk about entrepreneurship, to find the stories, to understand who's doing what and what are the needs. And so so Innovate Cochrane is brainchild of 3 people for the moment. And currently, right now, Innovate Cochrane is working towards their nonprofit status. We should have it filed before April. Innovate Cochrane is starting a founder board to guide and drive initial foundation laying efforts over the next year or 2. Governance will evolve to match the emerging direction of Innovate Cochrane beyond that. Innovate Cochrane is preparing to launch its first physical space in the community, and it should be done at the end of April. Programming and community engagement will happen at the rec center. They're building a space there, and through social media and other avenues. And their 3 key activities for the moment are to actively listen to and identify unmet needs and opportunities for innovation in the community. Actively connect unmet needs and opportunities within existing resources in Cochrane and beyond. Serving the community by speaking to key innovation sparking practices and insights to help identify needs and opportunities. They're going to provide clarity around their role specifically and gain momentum over the next coming months leading up to the open of the station. And we would like them to help contribute in understanding what community-facing programming the station should be doing and how. But currently what we do know is that the library really would like to help us fill the space, and they have needs right away, and we're continuing conversations with them. The second phase of the tourism product mentorship program from Cochrane Tourism will run at the station, and it is set to start in September. Once resources are finalized from an administrative perspective, we do want to do Smart Start again. Smart Start is a Business 101 program to help people understand how to start a business. But ultimately, we do know that we need some sort of residency program, whether it be an accelerator, an incubator, a makerspace, to provide businesses with a space to connect with others, build programming, provide mentorship, and that's ultimately where we see this going. In the report, I did mention that Cochrane Chamber of Commerce, was working on a grant for a Women in Business Accelerator program. Unfortunately, they found out on Friday that they did not get the grant. So we had that scheduled for that as well. The program is already built. We will look for other funding opportunities for that program, because I do believe that that would be an awesome program to have in that space. So, what are your thoughts, Council? What are your ideas? And I'm sure you have questions. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for the presentation, Mr. Corman. I will, Councillor Reid, you're first up again.
Oh, great. Just a couple of questions. Before we get to the innovation space, I was wondering, Mike, if we could segue back to, well, I know just some of the other uses of that space and related issues. So while I appreciate the vision is that Cochrane citizens who plan to commute to the city would take Colt to the hub and then take the transit system in with Southland from there. You know, on the tour, we talked about the potential issue of people citizens wishing to drive down there and park there. Is there a plan to be able to address that potential issue?
Through the chair to Councillor Reid, there is a parking lot to the south of the building, which is meant for the Innovation Center for the station. At the same time, that area is part of the Community Revitalization Levy. And in that plan, there is a plan for a parking space or parking structure to be created somewhere in that area to help alleviate the parking congestion if it so happens to be there.
So the answer is that the current parking space beside the library to the east of the library is going to be the short-term solution, and the long-term solution might be a parking arcade of some sort.
That's correct.
But beyond that, we're not planning any other measures like we're not charging for that parking spots, or no other measures of deterrent to encourage people to take Colt to that transit hub?
Not at the moment, but there is opportunity for future parking studies to determine whether a payment system is needed.
Okay. Yeah, I think that should be noted somewhere, or at least monitored. And then in terms of the innovation space, like exciting opportunities and proposals, but on our tour, again, the space is really not that large. So is the idea that people would come in there, or groups would come in there, like for example, the library, you know, you don't want a group to come in and settle in there and then, you know, possession becomes 9/10 of the law. Like, are there people passing through there all the time, or groups passing through there all the time? Is that the initiative, or are they actually taking root, so to speak?
The premise is to create an agreement in which they are there for a short period of time, utilize the space for a given time and a given program,
Right.
and then evacuate the space. Hopefully out to a bigger space, a rented or leased area throughout the town that we help them get settled in.
Okay.
But as far as the library is concerned, I can see the library utilizing the boardrooms a lot more for programming at night, and then we set it up and use it during the day. So they would only use it on certain nights and book it for a certain period of time and then go. We don't want to see anybody route in, as you say.
And is that what you meant in your report by talking about, I forget how you phrased it, but something about the kind of grain rules or the rules being set up?
Yes, so we're programming.
Details to be worked out.
Yeah, so we're working out, you know, how does that work? What agreements need to be put into place? We really want to make sure that this is utilized to the best of its ability, but as you say, we don't want to have campers. We don't want to just have somebody plop in for a long period of time and then not see the benefits and utilize the space appropriately.
Can I ask one more question? Mm-hmm. So the innovation Cochrane, I love that. I love where that resonates really with me. What's the purpose of setting up as a non-profit status? What's the value in that? Is it you're trying to get Canada Revenue designation for donations, or what's the point of that?
It's really a voice for the community. I think very similar to Bike Cochrane, we brought the biking community together and said, boy, everybody wants a whole bunch of things. How do we connect with one group and make sure that they have the best interest in mind for the community? And I think we're trying to do that with Innovate Cochrane, to say, yes, we have a chamber, yes, we have a business network, but we're really talking about entrepreneurship, and we're trying to bring those people together to say, what are your needs of the community, and how can this space facilitate that? It can't do everything because it's just a space.
Right.
But what is the opportunity for creating a better ecosystem which has mentors, which has entrepreneurs, which has venture capitalists, which has angel investors, everybody coming together with a sort of an idea of how they want to play within that world, so economic development can better serve it, very similar to like a steering committee for economic prosperity.
So, and just to clarify, what's the town's economic development council's role in that structure, in that nonprofit? Is it just a member, or just a facilitator, or how does that?
Very similar to tourism, Cochrane Tourism. I would be a arm's length. I would be a voice for the administration. I would be a conduit to administration for Innovate Cochrane. They would be their own separate entity.
Okay, and then last thing, I'd like to take you up on the offer of the book. I appreciate
Absolutely.
the opportunity to be able to read it, or at least just reference it to me, and I'll buy my own copy.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Janung?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I agree with the approach, I guess, is the short version of my comment. All of the town function there, I can't find a reason why we wouldn't put each of the amenities down there that you highlighted. Public washrooms, et cetera. I mean, so many of those just make sense. Speaking with the seniors today, you know, we were outlining some of the capital projects, and this was one that's always front of mind for a lot of seniors. And talking about having like a town function in the core of our community is very appealing to a lot of people for all the reasons that you listed. So very pleased with that. And I actually really appreciate your approach too to the programming. And I like how you outlined it, and you know, I would appreciate the copy of the book too. Maybe it'll be something I listen to versus Reed, but to each their own, right? Well, I do appreciate that there's spaces that the government should be in and should be out of. I agree that this is one that we don't want to be in. And I guess from my perspective, when we were talking about this, and I'm glad you referenced that, whatever it was, 2019 or 18 or whenever we were in Waterloo and looking at different incubator spaces there. For me, the programming didn't mean the government getting involved and setting, like a real program per se, but more guardrails of, and again, really on the aspects of an incubator. I've been questioned on this a few times in the community, and I'm glad. I think personally I did maybe a disservice to the innovation discussion, because I think a lot of people, when they talked about innovation, were talking about tech. And it doesn't need to be just technology based. It could be innovation in anything. We're about to launch a greenhouse this weekend that is innovative, right? Moving the solar greenhouse. So there's so many things that innovation touches, so I'd hate to limit it to just technology. However, I think from my standpoint, what I was looking for was the guardrails of what an incubator is and how the community can provide that space. So it is just space, Councillor Reed was on this line of questioning as well, but is it a 2-year time frame? Is it a number of employees? Is it your gross revenue reaches a certain aspect? I think those are the types of guardrails that I was kind of looking for, and really clear that a startup, whatever innovation business that this startup would want to contemplate, would have a facility or a space that they could do that business in. And the community, I guess, would help them launch this idea. And if it didn't work, we'd have a clear exit ramp, or a clear exit ramp for you're doing really great. Now here you go. You're out of the community's space and you're into the community where you now can set up shop and hopefully stay and live and work and play in Cochrane. For me, that's the guardrail, and I think I'm really excited about where this can go. And I agree, it's a smaller space, and we had to downsize with all of the world that it was when it was. But I'm really optimistic that we can prove a model in this small space, and it can grow into something else. And maybe by proving the model, we're actually proving to the community and to residents that this is a good thing. This is something that, and show everybody what it is. So when we do come back with a bigger plan someday in the future, that we'll have buy-in from way more people about, yeah, do more of that. So that to be determined piece that you're talking about in your report, that to me, that's the guardrails that we need to work. And I guess in the form of a question, am I on the right track with that style of thinking? Is that what you're working out still?
Through the chair to the mayor, yes, it is. We have to determine the programming and get people excited about the programming and what they're going to be able to do and who is involved in that before you can say, well, here's your space. Because if they don't have anybody to connect with, to collide with, to network, to bring ideas to, it's just a space. And we have co-working space, and people do it very successfully. And so we don't want to just have that. So we do need to promote what's going to happen there and figure that out first. But yes, the guardrails will be there. We want to make sure that, as Councilor Reed was saying, that we're not having people just sit there doing nothing. We'll have a clear understanding and expectations of what they're allowed to do, how long they're going to be there. And that all has to be formulated with, somebody getting excited to be there because, wow, you got that person in there. I want to be a part of that, yeah. Right? And so we're trying to build that up, and we are on track to have that for this year.
Perfect. And one more question, if I can, maybe two. I want to just build on the parking thing, and I think that was, I think we have to do a good job of communicating to residents that this isn't going to be a park and ride area where you may see in an LRT station in the city where you just come downtown, park your car and ride into the city and leave your car in Cochrane downtown all day. It's the opposite that we're trying to create, and that is take Colt downtown to go into the city to get into the greater transit system. So to be determined in the future what maybe a parking structure looks like, but I think we need to be pretty open and upfront with people that please don't bring your car downtown and park it, because that's the opposite of what we're trying to create. And the downtown core needs to be vibrant, walkable, and that parking space is actually highlighted for people coming and going from the transit hub or the innovation center or the library or whatever else is happening in the downtown core, not to park your car at all day, right?
Absolutely.
I'm on track, okay. Last thing was just, you didn't speak about the outdoor space.
And I apologize for that. I was expecting that to be brought up within the capital projects, but that got moved off the agenda. So I can speak to it. The Civic Plaza is exciting because it is an opportunity for people to gather. It has, as you know, a big Christmas tree or tree in the middle, and everything is shaped around that. It will have monuments that are going to be put up with the grant that we got from the government. And I think it'll be utilized for many things. I can see opportunities for people to gather. It will be booked out of the Natalie Duran's event planning piece. And so the opportunities are endless. And I think that many people are looking forward to having that space be incorporated into other events that happen already. So we do have opportunity for secure bike. We're looking at secure bike lockers for people who want to ride down to the station and then take the regional transit elsewhere. So those will be, a very innovative storage solution that we're looking at, which is great. And it will be lit up, so it will be safe at night. There will be other wayfinding signs that are electronic that will help people find other places within the town, because that is really the epicenter of town. It really is almost the center. So it will be really exciting to see how we can program that on a daily basis.
Yeah, and just a maybe closing comment. Again, with the seniors discussion we had this morning, Deputy Mayor and I were there. One individual brought up and shared this statement that she's feeling culturally starved in Cochrane. And that really resonated with me about, and I think a lot of it's due to COVID, but I think as a organization, I'm really happy that we're providing space that would provide opportunities to people to collide with those types of, I can, envision maybe a busker there or somebody playing, or even just a choir or something singing, or someone singing. And it's, a place where cultural events can just organically take place at the center of our community, and people can go and enjoy those things. I'm really pleased that we're designing and building, and it's going to have something of that nature, that, for that matter, even a flag raising that we do here, kind of hidden out of the way, could happen in the center of our community and have more people, especially coming out of COVID and all of the mental health challenges that associated with that, to provide an opportunity to have people come together and gather, I think are just so key. So, yeah.
And the information center will program that space. They'll do some art walks and they'll do some concerts, and we plan on utilizing that space to its fullest potential. We've had drum circles in the past. We've had kids' bike programs start and stop there because of the washrooms, and so it's been a wonderful opportunity to expand on that vision. So,
thank you for all the work you're doing on this. That's my final.
Councillor Wilson.
I'll be pretty short. Most of mine were just covered there. I just wanted to compliment you, Mr. Corman, on the way you're handling the programming side of it, at least, which is the more the build the infrastructure and then let entrepreneurs lead, as you said, or let the community kind of develop the programming more of a hands-off. I like that. And I also, I guess my suggestion would be to, we're not really sure what's going to become of the space necessarily, but it'd be interesting to see, try all these different things, and then it'll be interesting to hear, Q1, half a year in, how things are going, what's sticking, what's resonating, what's not working there, and I think we'll have better answers at that point. Just the humility to know that we might not know what's going to become of this, but I'm excited for the indoor space. I'm excited for the outdoor space. I was going to ask some questions about the Civic Plaza, but that was mostly just answered. So thanks for the presentation, and I support the path you're taking.
Thank you, and I'll just add that I do owe council a economic development update, so I will provide that in the second quarter to wrap up a little bit where we're at with the strategy and other initiatives that we're doing.
I guess it's back to me. Mr. Corman, the mayor is right. We did talk about this very project with the seniors today. And I mean, I think some of the key things that came up was just having space, and even if you wanted to have a private function or something, that you could have a private function there. So many good things will come out of this area. I do have a couple questions for you, and maybe a couple of ideas kind of piggybacking on what the mayor is saying kind of about those benchmark times, like something running for 2 years or 1 year or whatever the benchmarks are. Have you thought about even theming like a residency program, so that, you know, maybe we start with one theme and maybe it evolves? And you have Mr. Eaton sitting behind you, and I know that he knows a number of great startup opportunities, but maybe it could be kind of themed, or I guess something that travels within a certain plot line to get businesses started going, and then they're out on their own, right? So that was one comment. I also wanted to touch on, will some of these organizations, I know the visitor center obviously will move over, if the library is doing some programming there, is there a cost to some of these organizations having programming running out of here? Or I know that we had talked about startup businesses like not necessarily paying, you know, a cost to use a space, that we're trying to fundamentally help them get started. But the money issue, I guess, is there going to be a rental portion?
To the chair, for organizations to utilize the boardrooms and create events, yes, we would follow the guidelines of what we would do at the ranch house per se. And I'm working with Christy to sort of figure out what does that look like. But I think with the residency program, that would be something that where we're trying to provide an in-kind service. And so if we have a program like, let's say we have a program like IoT Fast Track that comes in, we're providing the space for them to order to do their program. They're a nonprofit. They work on accelerating Internet of Things companies. That would be our funding of that program. So we wouldn't necessarily look to have a revenue from that sort of idea. Because that's in itself its own compact program, and we would like to help them do it here for Cochrane businesses, because we do have a lot of IoT initiatives in town.
And I imagine that probably long-term, like the role of council is not to be obviously involved in this from a standpoint of having our finger in it, but from a promotional standpoint. So if you do say have whoever you have for a residency program, is that we could help to push out that message to invite entrepreneurs to come in to learn more, or to connect with the different groups that are going to be offering programs through the Innovation Center? Yes,
We want you to be cheerleaders. As one of my slides says, we want to promote the entrepreneurial spirit, and that is where you will, all administration and municipalities will play. So it's a great opportunity to help, for council to help, you know, promote the station as what we want it to be.
Well, I think we're all excited to see kind of what's going to come out of it, and you know, we're the first part of the journey is just starting. So I think we're all excited. Did you get enough information, Mr. Corman, from council tonight to proceed and take this forward?
I did, and I'm sure we'll have lots more conversations.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the information.
Thank you.
And with that, we do have an in-camera, so I do need an in-camera advice from officials, so I do need a motion to go in camera. Councillor Reid. And that's it for this evening. Oh, all those in favor?